Good morning, everybody. I was just playing with this new streaming software. There's some built-in music that you can play. I thought it was kind of funny. Getting to play with some intro music. So, waking up, I'm on my second cup of coffee. If y'all are in the chat this morning on Facebook or YouTube, make sure to drop a comment down below. Let me know if you're headed to work. Let me know if you're already at work. If you're already at work, thanks for sneakily listening to me this Friday morning. My name is Destin Nowak, Texas Garden Guy. If you have any gardening questions, drop them down below. I know we're getting into, we're kind of getting into fall here in Houston. It's still a little bit of a ways off for us. We still got some warm weather, potentially wet weather this week. It sounds like, looking at the forecast, who can really trust the forecast nowadays? But it looks like it's going to be a wet week for us. It's already pretty wet this morning, but hey, the plants are loving it. The plants are loving it. I took Duke out, who's hanging out beneath the desk, my big old German Shepherd. I took him out this morning, and he came back with wet paws. Walked out the back porch, just drizzling a little bit. And man, the plants are just loving it. With the plants that have made it love it. My peppers are doing great still. I've still got a couple peppers that are doing great. Some of them I lost to either pests. When you start getting these summer months, the heat kicks in, and it's the stress of the plants trying to deal with the heat, deal with the rain or lack thereof. Invites pests. We've had probably the worst infestation of armyworms I think I've ever had. It didn't matter what I sprayed, what I did. The armyworms were just ridiculous this year. The BT did help with the armyworms, although you just want to be careful where you're spraying that BT, because I have a lot of caterpillars that I like coming around, like on your milkweed and on your passion vine. So I try to zone out certain areas in my garden that are like no spray areas. And for the most part, I try to keep it pretty organic with my sprays. I only have to bring in the big guns when I have to, But good morning to everybody. We do this TGIF stream every Friday from here on out. I work every other Friday. So 1 week it'll be TGIF in the evening after work. And then 1 week it'll be TGIF in the morning. So kind of mix it up, keep y'all on your toes. But make sure you go ahead, and if you're on Facebook, make sure you give me a follow. If you're on YouTube, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you get a notification every time I post a video and every time I post a live. I used to do the morning lives a lot more frequent. The morning lives are great because you catch a different group of people usually. There's some people that can do, come and check out the lives in the evening, and there's some people that can, make it in the morning. So it's always good to hit different times, so I can engage with as many, people as possible. So we got Craig Harmon is a diehard man. Craig Harmon is he's a great listener, man. He listens to almost every single episode. Thank you so much, Craig. Good morning, dude. Blue Sage, what's going on, Blue Sage? Good morning, Texas Garden Guy. Good morning, Blue Sage. How you doing? Haley, I haven't gone to sleep yet. Been up all night repotting, repropagating, and fist fighting spider mites. Oh, you must be dealing with indoor plants. Man, that is, if you've been up all night repotting and propagating, that is nuts. I have never done an all-nighter propagating. I've done like an all weekender where I've spent every waking moment propagating or repotting, but I've never done an all-nighter. But I have very limited house plants. I don't do a ton of house plants. What usually happens with my house plants is they will do okay in the house, and it's just that some plants are just more happy outside. I think most plants do better outside in warmer temperatures for the most part. My wife keeps it at like 72 in our house, pretty chilly. And there were some plants, I forget which ones, that were kind of looking kind of like poo-poo. And we took them outside, and they got some rain, and they got, I put them in the shade, obviously. But man, they're outside, they're thriving. My prime example of this is my fiddly fig. Fiddly figs, everybody goes to the Lowe's, Home Depot, or whatever and buys them a fiddly fig. for indoors, and they grow pretty slow indoors, right? They grow pretty slow indoors, but they do really well. They don't need a ton of light. They kind of just are there. Well, I bought a fiddly fig for my indoor section, and then I also got a fiddly fig from outdoors. And the one indoors just stayed about the same, less than a foot tall, kind of bushing out more than anything. And my fiddly fig that's outside is 3 feet tall. It's been growing in the shade. I've had it in a very shady spot, but the fiddly figs, they will do really well outside. They would do really, really well outside. Good morning, Rosanna. Thank you for all the great information. I appreciate it. Like I always tell people, we're always learning. I'm not I would never call myself an expert or a master gardener. I'm an enthusiast and a plant hoarder. So I definitely don't consider myself an expert, but I do spend a lot of time in the garden. So I appreciate that, Rosanna. Yeah, I hope everybody's having a great Monday. It's Friday. Thank God it's Friday, and it's going to be a long weekend, a Labor Day weekend. Let me know down in the comment section what y'all have planned for this weekend, if the rain permits it. I have some plans in the garden, and that's kind of why I wanted to do this Friday, the TGIF stream. More than anything was to share, with people like what I have coming up this weekend, like as far as events or anything, which this weekend there are no events, and then possibly share some projects that I'm doing and what I hope to accomplish. And maybe that'll motivate me to actually get those projects done, and maybe even influence you or motivate you to get some projects done as well. So with this rain, one good thing that might come of this is the fact that I need to, when I originally did my 2 raised beds on the side of my garden, you probably all seen the pictures. I've got 2 Vigo beds that are 4x6, and I've got my tink tube arch going over it. Well, when I originally did that area, and I just reposted the video to kind of give people an idea how I did it with like the pea gravel and everything on my Instagram. When I did the edging, I used that cheap plastic edging that you get from Home Depot or Lowe's. I forget the brand. I don't want to, I'm sure it's good in the right applications. But for me, that plastic edging that's used like in that my area has failed. I don't know if it's from just too much traffic, it's trampled on or been like bent or something, but it's not working. So I'm actually going to be doing something with a company called EdgeGuard. I believe it's called EdgeGuard. I'll be posting a video, but I'm going to be doing a metal edging around that whole area, redoing that whole edging on that area. And then over on the side by my AC, I've got another Vigo bed. I got several actually in the garage that I need to put together. And I want to do a whole another garden bed on that side by my AC. And then the area where I've got my 3 rose plants, the fabric that I originally used was, it's good. It's good stuff. And for a while, it's probably the thickest. It's probably the thickest landscape fabric you can get from like the big box stores. But the best stuff you can use is the landscaper's quality stuff, the landscaper grade, the thick, heavy duty stuff. Like you go to nurseries and you see the black fabric on the ground, like at Jorge's, he's got his whole nursery, like where his trees are at, kind of covered in that. It's a permeable fabric that'll let moisture through, but it doesn't allow for weeds to come. It doesn't allow weeds to come from the bottom. A lot of people, when they have weed problems with your pea gravel, your mulch or stuff, is if you have a really good weed fabric, it's usually not coming up through the weed fabric. It's usually coming from when you mow or you weed eat and you're tossing seeds, especially sedge. Sedge is a nightmare to get rid of, into that, that gravel or that mulch. And it actually seeds from the top, which is fine because it does make it easier to pull up because you're not yanking it through the weed fabric. But that's what I'm kind of getting going. So I'm going to redo that whole area with that thick landscaper quality weed fabric or nursery quality weed fabric. And then I'm going to do an edging border around that whole thing. So it'll basically be the width of my yard or the width of my house with 3 raised beds and more stuff going on. So that might take a whole, a couple weekends to do, but I'm thinking with it being wet, the ground will be soft. So I'm able to hammer that metal edging in. So that's what I'm kind of looking forward to with this rain, is that if it was like last week, the ground was super dry. You could see the cracks starting and everything. It would have been really hard to hammer that edging in. So I'm looking forward to maybe getting some of that done. Let's see what Craig's got going on. Weeding and getting my garden prep, maybe planted, depending on rain, is my plan for this weekend. Nice, Craig. Yeah, I would highly recommend. It's actually a good time if you can get a break in the rain and go out there and take some bags of soil and top off your beds or top off your pots. Add some mulch. It's a really good time, especially since it's going to be the first of the month, to go out there and put some granular fertilizer out. So like for your plumerias, your bougainvillea, your hibiscus, put that Nelson plant food out and let that rain wash in your fertilizer. It's a perfect time to put out granular fertilizer. Not in the yard, obviously. It's going to be too hot, but I would recommend maybe putting out some Nelson plant food out in the garden. Caesar, what's going on, man? Good morning. Good morning. Let's see. Donna, enjoyed watching you pot your plumeria seedlings this weekend. Yes, and it couldn't have, I couldn't have picked a better weekend to do it. Last weekend was a great weekend to do it because it wasn't super hot this week. We got a little bit of rain, especially yesterday. We got quite a bit of rain. The best time to do like some propagations, if you're going to do them in the spring or the summer, is like right before it starts to rain. I did before Hurricane Beryl. I have 2 pomegranate trees on the side of my house right here, and I knew the hurricane was coming. So I was out there pruning anyway. I didn't want them slapping up against the fence and knocking it down. So I went ahead and pruned it pretty heavily, and I propagated everything I cut. And I didn't do little propagations. Now when I'm doing propagations, I'm only doing at least a foot long. So I was doing I was actually taking the cuttings, putting them in the bucket and cutting them at the height of the bucket. So I propagated probably 40 hibiscus or 40 pomegranate trees and sat them under my shade cloth, and it rained a ton, obviously, during the hurricane. And the next week, they all had new growth on them. It was so crazy. And now they're all in 1-gallon pots, and I've literally got probably 40 to 50 pomegranate trees out there growing in my backyard. It's insane. My dad is a huge pomegranate collector, so I'm probably going to need to take some out to him soon and get them planted when it cools down a little bit. See what Haley's got. Have you seen the gigantic pile of tree branches and whatnot from the city collecting everyone's fallen hurricane trees? I'm wondering if they're going to turn it into a ton of mulch for public use. That is a great question, Haley, and it's so funny that you mentioned that. So I have been doing some. I've been doing some work with Living Earth Soils. So Living Earth Soils is a really cool soil company to work with, because I get questions all the time. Where do I get my soil from? Where do I get my soil from? What soil do I use from here? And I have a hard time telling people what I get, because they can't always get it where they're at. You know what I mean? So like if someone from like Dallas or whatever asks me like, hey, where do you get your stuff? I can tell them, hey, I was using Landscaper's Pride or whatever at this time. But I started doing some work with Living Earth, and they have locations here in Houston and Dallas and everything. So if they have a question, there's like 16 locations here in Houston. There's 14 locations in Dallas, I think. So I can tell them exactly what I use, and they can like Google it, and within probably 20 minutes of their house, they can go pick it up. What's cool about that, your question is related to that, is they have a contract with the city of Houston. They have a contract with the city of Houston. Whenever the city of Houston, they have those days where they pick up branches and stuff, they take it to Living Earth Soils, and they actually have a mulch that they make this out of. It's called Houston mulch. So it's from the city for the city. I've got a couple bags of it. I'm going to be using it in my blueberry bed. I was planning on this weekend using some of their rose soil, which is slightly acidic. I'll probably end up getting some acidifier as well, and then topping it off with some of that Houston mulch. Now you could use pine bark mulch if you wanted to, which it's fine. You can use that. I think people overestimate how much acidity they can get out of like pine bark and pine mulch and stuff like that. Pine straw, I think you can get a little bit more. But yeah, this is the first year I've ever kept blueberry plants alive, honestly. And they're looking kind of rough, but they're still alive. So I need to get in there and add some soil to that bed and add some mulch. But I plan on doing a video on that this weekend, actually. So I hope that answers your question, Haley. Already did the fertilizing yesterday before the rain. Rose, hibiscus, and plumeria. Nice. Yeah, I was getting a ton of questions. I was getting a ton of questions after that. I posted a couple plumeria videos this week, especially about the seed pods. People were asking, like, how do you get the blooms? How do you get them to seed to put out pods? I guess I'll touch on that real quick. So plumerias will typically not put out seed pods, and this is just what I've heard and in my experience. It takes a mature plant to put out seed pods, maybe 5 years, 3 to 5 years. With desert roses, it could be 3 to 7 years. I've got 30 desert rose plants out there. Only one of them puts out seed pods. I've got probably 30 plumerias. Only one of them puts out seed pods. And to get them to bloom, I've had people ask me about that too. Like, they've got plumerias and they never bloom. Plumerias are heavy feeders. Plumerias are super heavy feeders, so they're sucking the nutrients out of the soil. They also have shallow roots. They're not digging deep to get those nutrients. So if you want big blooms out of your plumerias, I highly encourage fertilizing with Nelson Plant Food. That granular fertilizer will help out so much. And I believe the application says every 14 days. That's how often you're putting it out. So read the directions in the bottle, and definitely I can't speak more highly of Nelson Plant Food. They're my go-to fertilizer. Let's see. Celebrating Farm Live. Good morning. First time here, saw your live and dropped in. Definitely go with the higher grade fabric for better results. Yes, and I'm noticing a lot more people are using that awesome wheat fabric. I actually, what's cool is you can buy it like in a huge roll. You can buy a huge roll of that wheat fabric. My buddy Jorge, I borrowed a roll and he let me have the rest of it. And I've had that roll for like 2 years now, and I've not used all of it. I've done my whole greenhouse in it. I did with my whole greenhouse, which is 20 by 15 or 20 by 12. I did my other greenhouse that is 7 by 12. I did my little garden area, which I think is like 10 by 20, and I still have like more than half the roll. So invest in something like that, and even like you can share it with like your neighbor or whatever, and that stuff lasts a really long time. People talk about wheat fabric that it doesn't last very long, but this stuff has lasted a really long time. If you see the weeds coming out, most likely the weeds are coming from when you're mowing and you're weed eating and you're tossing those seeds on top, and they're growing from the top, especially the sedge. Especially the sedge. Sedge is a nightmare. But I end up just having to get down there in either. I mean, you can spray the Roundup, the glyphosates if you want. I'm not a big fan of doing that. My honestly, what I like to do is to go hand weed if I can. If I have the time and it's not crazy hot, I'll get down there and I'll hand pull those weeds. But another option is the flame weeder. I have a flame weeder that I'll use as well to hit those pretty hard. But sedge is really hard to get rid of. Sedge is really hard to get rid of. That's why I'll be pulling up that gravel, put in a wheelbarrow, probably rinsing it all off, make sure there's no seeds in it, which it doesn't matter. I've got sedge in my yard, so it will get into my flower bed, but I'm going to redo that whole bed with the nice, awesome weed fabric and not have to worry about it. Good morning. I love Living Earth or Nature's Way. Nature's Way takes debris as well. Yeah. Yep, for sure. No, there's a lot of companies that do that. So chances are, if you're buying from like a Houston company, you're probably getting Houston mulch, which is cool because I've actually had issues. I've had issues in the past where I have bought mulch and I don't know where it came from. And I actually had a new pest get introduced to my garden from the mulch that I bought because I know it wasn't local. So try to buy products that come from your area, you know what I mean? So that you're not introducing a new disease or new, pest in your area. Caesar, looking at repotting a few of my desert roses into bigger pots this Labor Day weekend. Any plans for this Labor Day weekend? I do have one. So my buddy Jorge over Jorge's Hidden Gardens. If you don't follow Jorge's Hidden Gardens on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, make sure you do that. Jorge is a landscaper and he has a nursery over here in Alvin, Texas. But it's really cool because he's a really good friend of mine. We've become really good buddies over a couple of years now. And I go over his place and I'll bring him plants and he'll give me plants. And if I need like 3-gallon pots or 1-gallon pots, he hooks me up. We're out there. He's got a big giant pile. If you have a garden and you're looking for, hey, you just want to go get some like 15-gallon nursery pots or like whatever, go to your local nursery because they will typically have stuff like that on hand, and they'll probably sell it to you pretty cheap. You probably won't get it for free. You probably won't get it for free because I think a lot of people don't realize how much pots cost. I mean, a 3-gallon pot, like for a nursery, I mean, one 3-gallon pot could cost you like 50 cents a piece, and that adds up. A 15-gallon pot will cost you like $3 a piece. I mean, the cost of everything at a nursery costs money. But I was over there at his house, or his nursery, and we were looking at going to get some pots, and he had a ton of terracotta pots. He had a ton of terracotta pots, especially the shallow ones, like the shallow 8-inch ones I really like for my desert roses. And I must have got like 20 of them from him. And I used all of them. I used every single one of them. And one or a couple of them actually had a crack down the seam. And I was thinking, wow, I wonder if I could just super glue these and get them to stick. And I should have tried some of that. What is it? That really good like putty. And I super glued it. I put a desert rose in it, and it's been in there for over a year. And I looked the other day, and the roots on a desert rose grow crazy. They're huge, they're thick, and they will crack a pot. And they spread that seam. So I need to do some repotting this weekend on my desert rose. I don't like to do them when it's this wet, just because if you make a cut on them, it can possibly lead to some kind of infection. I mean, but what I'll probably do if I repot it, I'll put it in the shade out of the rain for at least a week or so. But yeah, I'm trying to. Haley says, thanks. I wish I could find a source for affordable straw. I started mulching all my containers with straw this year, but it's like $20 a bale at Tractor Supply and even higher at nurseries. Yeah, I would be looking for some more alternative mulching if it was $20 a bale. What I would do, and people might frown upon this because they worry about the acidity, but find someone who's got a ton of pine trees. And get the pine straw mulch. Pine straw mulch will work really well. It'll break down over time. And it's not releasing that much acidity, honestly. And you can typically get that for free. Wood chips are another option. I did do straw for a couple of years. I did the easy straw, which is good stuff, and it did help reduce weeds and hold moisture, so you don't have to water as often. But mulch is a good option too. I mean, you can get mulch a lot cheaper. $20 a bale. That's a lot of money for mulching. What's going on, Felicia? Good morning, Felicia from Smith's Garden Town. Hope you all are having a great Labor Day weekend. Started your Labor Day weekend up there at Smith's Garden Town. I know y'all are busy. Smith's Garden Town, if you don't follow them, they are on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and YouTube. They are a nursery out of Wichita, Texas, and they put out daily content. Michael is the owner, and Felicia is his social media director. I don't know if that's your title, Felicia, but it is now. So they work really hard. So they put out really good content. So make sure to give them a follow. Celebrating farm life, we do too. Hand pulling weeds. We try very hard not to use any chemicals in and around our gardens, but unfortunately this year we got beetles come in the garden that had to get some. Yeah, no, for sure. And I never claim. I've never claimed to be an organic gardener. I try to be as organic as I possibly can, but I have a full-time job and I do all this content. I don't have the time to stand out in my garden with a stick and smash bugs. I'm not a scarecrow. I can't hire someone to go out there and smash stuff with sticks. So I have to do the best I can with what I've got. And I always recommend that people be as organic as possible. And if you are having a insect problem, try not to use a all purpose. Try to use something that's more specific to what you're going at. People will send me DMs sometimes and ask me, hey, what do I need? Well, I something's killing my tomatoes. What should I spray? And I'll first thing I ask is, well, do you know what it is? Have you identified what the problem is? Because I'd rather tell you target the specific problem you're having. And then also applicating at the right time of day. I do use neem oil. And I use it probably once every week or once every 2 weeks or so, but I'm doing it at a certain time. I'm doing it late in the evenings to, one, avoid burning the leaves, and two, to avoid pollinators. And I have not had any problems with pollinators in my garden. You can walk out. It's raining right now. You can walk in my garden right now and probably still see 20 bumblebees. Like, the honeybees are everywhere. The caterpillars are everywhere, on the stuff they need to be. The butterflies are around. The moths are around. So, I mean, it's not, if you use it properly, if you follow the directions and use it properly, it is not going to hurt your garden and everything around it. So I can't speak to, I can't speak highly enough of neem oil. I use it for powdery mildew, aphids, squash bug, and vine borer preventative. Once you already have the vine borers or you have the squash bugs, neem oil is not going to help you. It is a preventative, so you got to start early. So that's what I use neem oil for. But yes, good point. I try not to use crazy stuff in the garden, but we're all human. I'm not afraid to, and I'm probably one of the fewer people on certain social media platforms that will show you exactly what I'm using in the garden. I'm not afraid to say what I'm using. So, hey, no problem, Felicia. Yes. Hope you all have a great weekend. Hope you have a busy weekend. If you are in the stream, we are having coffee. I used to do coffee in the garden, but it's just so much easier to have my camera set up and everything right here. And the sound, my neighborhood has gotten so loud, even with school being out, or even with school being back in session, it's still so loud in my neighborhood in the morning. It seems like every time I would go live, my neighbor would have their lawn cut. My neighbor who never mows his lawn decides to mow his lawn. I'll hear a chainsaw down the road. It's insanity. So I got to control my environment. So that's why we're doing coffee in the garden, but not in the garden. You know what I mean? So hope you got a hot cup of coffee or a iced coffee. I've been more of an iced coffee person lately. Somebody was saying that iced coffee, actually, you can get more caffeine from it. So I actually prefer the iced coffee lately, but I got hot coffee this morning. It was cold in my house. My wife is the ice queen. She keeps it pretty chilly in here. But I'm happy for the rain. I'm happy for the rain. I haven't had to water in 3 days, so it's been pretty nice. It's been pretty nice. Yeah, you're an iced coffee tea person. Yeah. I was excited for my new position at my company because I didn't drive by any fast food places. So I was like, oh, no more McMuffins for lunch or for breakfast. That's good. So I can avoid that stuff. But there's a Starbucks. And so I found myself getting a iced caramel macchiato upside down every morning. And I just need to find a less sweet alternative. I just need to switch to like black, like a iced or Americano or whatever, which is just black coffee. I need to trick myself into drinking coffee. I used to be a Red Bull drinker. I try not to anymore. I don't know. I'm getting too old to be drinking stuff like that. I've pretty much cut out all sodas. I've been soda free for the most part. Even the diet sodas, I've been trying to not drink any sodas for the most part. And I'm down probably 15 pounds, I would say. I haven't got on the scale lately, but I'm down about 15 pounds basically just from quitting sodas. Even like this, because I wasn't even drinking regular sodas. I was drinking zero sodas, like the zero sugar, but I don't know what they put in that. So cutting out on sodas in general, as I've lost quite a bit of weight now, and it's been nice. And now when I taste this, so like I have had one, and I'll taste it. Even the diet soda it tastes too sweet for me now. It's too sweet. It's so weird. Craig Harmon, it's been nice not watering. I went out on the walk through the garden, the flowers this morning, and everybody looked quite happy. Hopefully I can get through next week without watering. Fingers crossed. Yeah, we're supposed to get a pretty wet week. So I would not predict having to water this week too much. I always say that for the most part, for every inch of rain you get, that's one day you don't have to water. For every inch of rain, that's one day you don't have to water. So, unfortunately, I bought my rain gauge. I bought a new rain gauge, just one of those digital ones, and it's got like a little thing that sits outside. And the way it works, it's got like this seesaw on the inside of it. And so there's a funnel that catches the rain, and as the rain comes down, there's a seesaw, and each side of the seesaw is like a little cup, and it catches the rain, and then it goes like that, and it counts like an inch. And this is an, you know what I mean? It does like that kind of mechanism. But the rain yesterday was coming so hard, it was at an angle, like almost like this. I opened my truck to come home for work, come home for lunch, which I always do. I work 5 minutes from the house. So I come home, let my dog out, water the garden for an hour. And I got in my truck and I was soaking wet. I had to come home, take my clothes off, throw it in the dryer. Oh my God, it was so wet. So my rain gauge actually showed no rain. So I don't know how many inches I got, but I know I got like 3 days of none. I work from home, so I'm making mine every day with almond milk. Nice. Yeah, I'm drinking my coffee. My coffee right now is using it's a sweetener with almond and coconut milk. So it's a zero sugar sweetener with it's a zero sweetener. What is it? Zero sugar creamer with coconut milk and almond milk. Oh. Yeah, the I've seen those refresher drinks. They look like just like a cherry limeade from Sonic. I got to stay away from those. I'm too fat and I'm too old to be drinking stuff like that anymore, Felicia. Is there a natural predator of squash bug beetles? You know, that's a great question. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that like birds, I know the mockingbirds are insectivores, and I was noticing this year that I was spraying less at the beginning of the year, beginning of the seasons. I was really spraying a lot less than I typically do. I was usually a once a week sprayer of neem oil and all this stuff, and this year I kind of like laid off of it quite a bit, maybe once a month. And I noticed that the mockingbirds were hanging out in my garden, which they always do. They're waiting for ripe tomatoes, ripe figs, whatever. You know, when it's dry, the mockingbirds are typically looking for moisture. So that's when they go to your figs and they go to your tomatoes, getting that juice out of there. And, you know, that's why they'll only take a peck and they'll drink some juice out of there and move on to the next one. But I did less spraying and I did more observing this year. I would advise some, going into your fall garden or going into your spring garden is to do less spraying and do more observing. Spend more time in the garden, paying attention to what's going on, what's flying around this plant. You know, go out there. If you're having an issue with one plant that looks terrible, go outside, put a chair out, sit in the sun, and just watch that plant for like 15 minutes. And I did that this year. And I noticed that the mockingbirds were grabbing bugs. The mockingbirds, I noticed several times that the mockingbirds had bugs in their mouth and bugs in their beak rather than going after my tomatoes. So I think it's like a catch-22. It's a catch-22. You know, you don't spray, so you have more insects, but then the insects bring in the predators. You know what I mean? So it can kind of be, but you know, it can kind of be a double-edged sword there. You know, my typical method of keeping the birds out of the garden is I keep them well fed in the front. So I have a couple of bird feeders and I keep them well fed in the front. Mostly because I like watching birds. I like seeing different varieties. And I was having an issue actually for a while that I feel like I was seeing the same three birds. I was seeing like the house sparrow or the English sparrow, the house finch, and the mockingbird. And some doves. That's all I was seeing. So I talked to my buddy who's a birder. That's what they call bird people now. They're birders. And he's like, oh, you got to mix up your bird seed. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, if you want to see different kinds of birds in your yard, mix up your bird seed, you know, throw in some fruit, throw in some mealworms, throw in some what do they call it for the Nigers? It's like it's little black seed. I forget what it's called. But if you want to see different kinds of birds in your garden or in your yard, mix up your bird seed and add more than just the safflower and the sunflowers, you know. So I did that and I started seeing blue jays, some orioles. I even got the fruit and the jelly to bring the orioles in. So very cool. But I keep them in the front. If I keep them fed in the front, they will typically stay out of the back. And that's usually my go-to method for telling people how to keep them out of your garden. But as far as the squash bug goes, I'm sure that mockingbirds and other things will go after them. I even have a lot of those little Texas brown snakes. Y'all saw the video I did with the Texas brown snake. That was cool. I see them almost every single day. Anytime I lift a pot, I got grubs, I got worms, I got roly-polies everywhere. And I have those little Texas brown snakes. They do a great job of repelling pests. I'm sure they eat the beetles if they're small enough. The biggest thing I need to do is get rain barrels set up, but that's going to be a process of time and money. Yeah, for sure. I always have people commenting, "Oh, you need a rain barrel system. You need a rain collection." Here in the Houston area, I'm not going to say it's not a good idea to get rain barrels, because there are periods of time where we don't get that much rain, and it's always a good idea to harvest rainwater. It's so much better for your garden than regular tap water. Uh, but we live in such a wet area that it's almost more money than it's worth for me, honestly. I don't have, if I had the space to set up like a cistern, like Jay White up there, he runs Texas Gardener Magazine. He's in Brenham, and it doesn't rain very often there. So it makes sense for him to have cisterns, and he gets discount. Like I think if you have like a rainwater collection, you get like a tax, cut or whatever, which is awesome. Good. I highly, I mean, if you can do it, I recommend it. Do it. But I don't have the space. I'd have to get gutters in my house. I don't plan on being in this house forever. I don't know if you'll know that or not. I live on a 16th of an acre. My backyard is a 32nd of an acre. I don't plan on being here forever. So I'm doing a little bit, what I can to make it livable, and, be able to keep my interests going in the backyard. And, and I do enjoy having a smaller yard. It is a lot less maintenance. Um, and also, I think a lot of people watch my videos and they see, you can grow a lot of trees, a lot of fruit, a lot of veggies in a smaller footprint. So I like where I'm at, but I don't plan on being here forever. So to invest that kind of money in a rain collection and all that time and energy, it's just more efficient for me to use the hose. And it's so wet here, I don't have to water that much. There's times where it doesn't rain for like a whole month, and that sucks. But I mean, it's not that frequent. It doesn't seem like. Last year was pretty dry. This year has been pretty wet. Yeah. Yep, we are having our coffee here in the office, and live on Facebook and YouTube. Make sure, if you aren't already, to subscribe on YouTube and Facebook. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and hit that notification bell so you get a little alert every time I go live, or every time I post a video. So make sure you do that. And we're going to be live here till 8 o'clock. If y'all have any gardening questions or anything at all, just drop it down below, and we will talk about it this morning. I am having some coffee in my Vigo cup. These are the coolest cups. I love these cups because they look like the beds. They come in all colors now. Yeah, you can get these at Vigo Garden Academy, I think, vigo.com or whatever. But I got one in every single color. They hooked me up. Oh, we had a really good time with Anthony the Millennial Gardener last night. Yeah, thanks, Craig. We had a really good time with Anthony the Millennial Gardener on the garden party. Make sure to go check that out. It is on Facebook, on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. Everywhere you listen to podcasts, you can find the garden party. So go follow the podcast. We have a lot of cool guests on. Anthony is, I didn't realize he lived, my co-host is Phil's Figs. They're both in Wilmington, North Carolina. I had no idea that Phil and the Millennial Gardener both lived in Wilmington. No idea. But that's kind of the cool thing about the garden party, is that I like to bring in people, not just people from Houston, not just people from Texas. I like to get people from all over the place on the podcast. And next week's guest is no exception. I don't know if I can show. We have a guy named Ryan Cook, and he is out of West Virginia, and his passion is growing giant fruits and vegetables. He has several like world records and like continental records for growing like the biggest pumpkins, the longest carrots. I met him through Enoch, the urban gardener, on his live stream. But Ryan Cook is the Heavenly Hills Homestead. He's out of West Virginia, the nicest guy ever. And his passion is growing giant stuff. So he grows giant pumpkins up there in West Virginia, giant carrots. He's got like the biggest turnip. He's got a lot of cool stuff, and he's going to come on and talk about his passion for growing giant stuff. And it's so cool. Very cool. Blue Sage, I am new to gardening, so I'm still trying to figure out what to plant. What do I start with? I don't know why my stream keeps doing that, but So what I always tell people when they're first starting out gardening, when they ask me, what do I plant? I reply with this question. I say, what do you eat? What do you eat? Because if you're new to gardening and you want to grow like a fruit or vegetable garden, uh, the first thing you should grow is something that you actually eat so that you actually appreciate it. You'll take care of it, but start small. So if it's your first year gardening and you want to do you want to do some fall tomatoes, do 2 or 3 fall tomatoes. Pick 2 varieties that you like and one that you've never tried before and grow those. Start small, start in some containers. Don't go crazy. Don't go buy a bunch of raised beds yet until you know what you're into. But start out with something you eat. So this fall, if you're in the Houston area, coming up in September, probably the first or second week in September, here in the Houston area, I'll be starting my fall tomatoes. I'll be starting my fall squash. Probably another round of cucumbers. We are very lucky here in the Houston area to have almost like a 300-day growing season. But the fall for us is like the spring in reverse. So like in the spring, you're starting stuff when it's cold indoors and you're acclimating it to being outside after the first frost. And then it's going and going and going until it's too hot. So in the fall, you're doing the complete opposite. You want to start your seeds outdoors in a shady spot, because if you start your seeds indoors in your house where it's 70 degrees, 72 degrees, 73 degrees, and you go take your seed starts outdoors and it's 90 something degrees outside, good luck. It doesn't matter how much like slow acclimation you've done. It is tough to get a seed start going that started out in 70 degrees. And some won't even do it. It's like if your house is like at 72 degrees, like to 73, like my wife's is, some seeds won't even germinate at that temperature. Some seeds like tomatoes and peppers need to be at like 75 degrees, 80 degrees to actually germinate. So that's where those heat mats come in handy, So I like to start my fall garden seeds outdoors. I put them in a shady spot where they're getting some sun, like some early morning sun and like afternoon shade. And the biggest thing right now is keeping them moist, because they will dry out so quick, so quick here when it's this hot. Your seed start trays will dry out really quick. So you want to have a bottom watering tray. I use the Charles Dowding trays, and they have a bottom watering tray, and they're awesome. And they also have the humidity dome for those. I got a link for those in my bio, I believe. So you can check that out. But yeah, you can definitely start seeds. You can go ahead and get started now. And then you're going to be able to grow this fall until your first freeze. So there are places where you can grow tomatoes, here in the Houston area. I've grown tomatoes and stuff until, like past Christmas. And around Christmas time is when I start my spring seeds, So it's pretty wild how much you can grow and what you can do. I would say start now. If you're looking to get started for your fall garden, you can go ahead and start this week. I would say the problem with me is I'm leaving for Alabama. And I'm going to be going to the Great Fall Garden Festival in Selma or in Jemison, Alabama at Petals from the Pass. That's where Cog Hill Farms and Just Dig It Farm are from. So I'm going to that in 2 weeks, and I'm a OCD micromanager. If you got seed starts, you need to be around them. You need to spend some time with them at least once or twice a day, go check them. And I won't be here for like 4 days. So I don't want to lose them in that time span. So I'm going to wait till I get back to start those. Might get a little bit later start. But it is what it is. And I do recommend you start them from seed. Plant starts have gotten really expensive lately. I mean, be careful about, those seed starts, because you can go out, or if you go to Home Depot or Lowe's, sometimes those vegetable starts can be $6 a piece. And if you want to buy tomato plants that are $6 a piece, go ahead. But I always tell people that, if you're going to pay $6 for a tomato plant start, are you going to get $6 worth of tomatoes out of that plant? Think about that. Are you going to get $6 worth of tomatoes out of that plant? Because not only are you buying the plant for $6, you're buying the soil, you're buying a pot, you're buying a container or whatever, and then you got to water it. Are you going to get $6 out of that? You can buy a packet of seeds for less than probably $4, and you have 100 plants. If you store your seeds right, should have them for like at least 2 years, so if you get a good deal or you just find a variety that you want to try, that's usually what happens with me. If I find a variety of like pepper or tomato that I've never tried before and I just want to see how it does, then I might buy a plant start before I buy like a package of seeds. But it gets really costly nowadays with inflation. Price of everything goes up. We did a video on water for your garden or flower beds. Pull weeds and put them in a 5 to 10-gallon bucket. Fill the water, either half can of beer or half teaspoon of yeast left for. Oh yeah, no, I've heard of this. People do this. People do this. I'll have to check out your channel, Celebrating Farm. This is Celebrating Farm Life. They got a YouTube channel. Make sure to check them out. Make sure to give them a follow if y'all are in the chat. Yeah, I'd like to try that. I've heard of people doing that where I forget what it's called. It's called like a gestation fertilizer or whatever, because it kind of sits there and ferments with the yeast or the beer and then the weeds and everything. And the heat should kill the seeds like from being able to germinate, I believe. And then it should act as a fertilizer. I have seen this on a couple channels before, and I've always wanted to try it. I don't have a space in my garden because I wanted to do a vermicompost. I bought everything I need to do it. I just need a trash can, but I bought everything to do a vermicomposter, which is like a worm composter. So you take like a barrel or whatever, and you set it like you don't want it in the full sun. You want it like in the shady spot. And what you do is you feed all your scraps, throw it in the bucket with the worms, and then you have a lid on top, but it's got like where water can fill up the thing, and the water goes through the barrel and comes out and fills up like a bucket, which is like liquid fertilizer. It's got the worm castings and all that good stuff in there, and you can use that to fertilize your garden as well. I've been wanting to do that. I don't have a spot in my garden where I could do that, but it seems like this one is a really good option. Maybe I think Haley would really enjoy something like that. She's got a little bit of space where she could do something like this. I bet I might have to do an experiment with this. Good morning from Arkansas. Hey, thanks, Brenda. How's it going? Good morning. Hope you all got your coffee and you're having a great Friday morning. I know everybody's excited for a big weekend. It's going to be a 4-day weekend for me. I'm off today, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. It's always weird, these long weekends. I feel like when I go back to work, it's like I was gone for a month. It feels weird. It'd be even better this weekend if it wasn't supposed to rain all weekend. But we may get some breaks here and there. That's what rubber boots are for. And guess what? When it's wet, it makes for easy digging. So if you want to plant some stuff in the ground. Oh, let's see what Melissa has to say. Melissa Shrimp. I almost said shrimp. Melissa Shrimp. What informational resource do you recommend about the varieties of plants and when they grow? So that's a very broad question. I always recommend, if you're in the Texas area, you can look up your local county ag extension, and they will recommend what varieties and when to plant them. Actually, almost in every single county here in the state of Texas, you can look up your county and then the ag extension, Google it, and it'll pull up their website, and they will typically have a calendar that tells you when to start, which seed, when to, by transplant, by direct seed, by whatever. They'll even tell you what varieties of trees do really well in your area, with the chill hours that y'all have. So I can't recommend enough your local ag extension. That's what your tax dollars go to. Like our taxes go to like these universities. Universities put out these ag extensions. So your tax money is going to stuff like this. So use it to your advantage. And the extension agents like mine, Kimberly Mayer, who is helping us out with Figtoberfest, has been a really good resource for me. So I can't recommend enough to look up your local ag extension agents. Skip Richter, who runs the Garden Line. I'm going to see him for lunch today, actually, here in Houston. He was an extension agent for a long time. And they're really good people who want to help you grow and help you succeed in your area. So use that stuff to your advantage because you're paying for it. Oh, farm life. Yeah, definitely come on out to the great fall garden festival. We're gonna have Jason and Tracy from Cog Hill and Just Dig It on the podcast the week of. So we'll do the podcast Wednesday with them two, and then I'm leaving Thursday morning to drive all the way to Alabama. I was gonna drive through the night Thursday night, but I was like, it's a 10-hour drive. I'm gonna take Thursday off, I'm gonna drive there. So if y'all are in anywhere near Jemison, Alabama, I will be at Pedals from the Past on, I believe, September 15th is that Saturday. That is when I will be there. Yes, and you have a ton of options when you buy seeds. Now, seed catalogs can kind of be a Pandora's box, because there's a lot of cool things that there's a lot of cool pictures of varieties that are exciting and everything. And but what I always recommend is get a variety that you like, and then get a variety that you want to experiment with, because you want to make sure you still get the varieties that you like, especially with tomatoes. Like, get a variety of tomato that you like, and then do an experimental one, because you can have a ton of tomatoes that you don't like and be kind of missing out. Sandra Gillingham, good morning. If y'all are just joining the chat, drop your comments, questions down below. Hope everyone's having a great Friday. Yep, Jason at Cog. That's where I saw Jason had the worm composter. He had that IBC tote, and it was really cool. Yes, it gives the nitrogen and feeds the microorganisms in the soil to make a good compost. Thank you so much for the shout out. Hope we see you at Pedals from the Past. We'd love to meet you. Absolutely. I'll have a table set up. I'm excited to be there. I'll be there all weekend. Labor Day weekend in Canada. Nice. Yeah, it's Labor Day weekend here in the US too. I'm in Montgomery County. Thanks. Oh, nice. Cool. So you're in the Houston area. I got family up there in Grimes County. We'd like to start a composter here. Cog Hill has some great content. Hope you have a great Labor Day weekend. Yes, Cog Hill is the best. I love Cog Hill. Destin, you're a legend. Oh, thanks, Phil. If y'all don't already, go follow Phil's Figs on YouTube and Facebook. Phil is my homeboy. He's been with me since day one. We're almost coming up on a year. So I don't know if Phil knows this or not. I don't know if he knows this or not, but me and Phil did our first podcast together, I believe, almost a year together. That's when we met. It's our bro-niversary. That sounds weird. Oh my God. And then we'll have been doing the podcast together I think it's in October or November when we started the podcast, the garden party. But me and Phil's been there with me almost every single week. And I have not missed one week. I will never miss a week. I know, right? I know. You going to try that purple tomato next year? I don't know. Dude, like clockwork, the dude is out there mowing the yard. It has been raining for 3 days and he's out there mowing. That is insane. That's why I mow my own lawn. God, why would you want someone mowing your lawn when it's raining outside? It's insane. I don't know if I'm going to grow that purple tomato next year. I'm probably going to really focus on the dwarf varieties of tomatoes. The dwarf varieties are really cool. San Diego Seed Company sent me some this year. Shout out to San Diego Seed Company. They're really awesome to try out. And I got them a little bit later in the spring. I think if I would have had them early on to start, like around Christmas when I usually start my tomatoes, that I would have had better luck. But I did get some good tomatoes. I got some good tomatoes out of them. But I think I really want to try those, because dwarf tomatoes, if y'all don't know, grow like regular tomatoes. Like, they grow regular sized tomatoes, but the plant is like a short, stocky bush, so it doesn't get long and lanky, and you have to trellis it and all this stuff. So it's kind of a nice compact size, and with the size of my garden, it kind of makes sense to maybe focus on that, especially since I'm still getting the same size fruit. Will you have hats to the event? Yes. Oh my God. Who is calling me? Why is my phone on? My phone should be on Do Not Disturb. Now we're on Do Not Disturb. Sorry about that, guys. I will have hats at the event. So I'm actually working my hats, Texas Garden Guy hats. I can actually pop a link up here, actually. My hats are for sale on the website. Or I'm not on the website, but you can find the link on my page. And I will post the link right here, actually. What's really cool is I don't have the time or the energy or the skills to actually go and ship and worry about inventory and all this stuff. I just don't have the time or the energy to do that. I'm really bad at getting stuff shipped out. So I actually am working with my friend, Jeremy Trotsky's wife, over at the Dirty Punk Gardening. His wife does I always say upholstery, but it's embroidering. she does the embroidering for my hats. The hat I'm wearing right now is available. You can get this hat right here on this website. I'm going to post it in the chat right now. And we are working on some new styles, but I am making a bulk order to go ahead and get some to take with me to Alabama. But just know that when you buy a hat, not only are you supporting me, but you're supporting a small business. Jeremy at the Dirty Punk Gardening, that's his wife, and she's handling Alicia. That's her name. I'm so bad with names. Alicia. She's handling the shipping and the making of my hat. So make sure to go and support small business and support me. So I took off all the ads off my live stream. So go support me by buying a hat. And they're good hats too. Oh yeah, man. It's a founding milestone in our bromance, bro. And if you don't know, Phil is a romantic. Yes. Let's see. Let's see what we got in the chat. Felicia sent him some purple galaxies. I don't know if I'm familiar with the purple galaxy. I've never done. I think the only purple tomato I've done is the Cherokee purple. Your bromance is awesome. We do have a great bromance. Next season, these mini kitchen herbs and veggies will be popular. You watch. Yeah, I haven't heard anything about that. We'll have to talk about that, Felicia. I'm like the worst herb gardener in the world, though. I am the worst herb gardener in the world. People ask me all the time, like, hey, about dill and rosemary and, all these herbs. And I'm just, if you're a gardener or a plant enthusiast, there's always something that you buy every year and you try to grow every year and it just doesn't work out that well. And for me, it's herbs. I'm the worst. I'm the world's worst herb gardener, and that's something I want to try to do more. Like next year, I'm going to focus a lot of my energy this next year on learning more about grass. I want to learn more about lawns. Obviously, expanding more native Texas plants as well, but then also trying more herbs. And getting into the fall will be a good time to do that because herbs typically bolt when it's hot. So getting into the fall when it's cooler, possibly growing them in the greenhouse over winter will be a good option. I've got a rosemary plant. The rosemary plant I've got, which is almost in complete shade, is doing really good. And that's the longest I've ever kept an herb alive. It cracks me up when you'll go to someone's house and they'll have rosemary as like a shrub in their front yard. And I can't keep it alive. I can't keep it alive. But I think for a lot of things, the more you do to it, the worse it turns out. So maybe I just need to leave it alone. Phil is Italian. Romance is in his blood. That is very true. He is an Italian stallion. He's got like 8 kids. Purple Galaxy is the only GMO tomato seed available for us home gardeners to buy. Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know much about it. I'd have to look more into it. I'm not the biggest tomato. I'm a big tomato grower. I'm not the biggest tomato eater. I like cherry tomatoes better than regular tomatoes. But I'm not the biggest tomato eater, but I do grow a lot of tomatoes. My wife is the tomato eater. We do a lot of sauces and stuff like that. So it works out. Duke, what are you doing? Hey, Duke. Hey, come here. Say hi. Say hi. I usually don't let Duke in the office with me, but we're alone this morning, so I can't leave him outside by himself. He has a tendency to bark, so if he does, I apologize in advance. Let's see. Oh, what did Felicia say? I grow thyme, lemon balm, and oregano in pots and leave them alone, and they're awesome. Yeah, no, mint and basil I can do. So like, I got from I went to the Master Gardener sale. If you don't already, follow your local master gardeners on Facebook or whatever, because they will post events of like their spring plant sales, spring trees and stuff like that sales. They'll do all kinds of cool stuff. And I went to one this year and I picked up a bunch of different Thai basils. I did like a lemon balm. One's a lemon basil, one's a holy basil, Thai basil. All those heat-loving basils are amazing. And I didn't necessarily buy them and start and grow them for like edible use. I bought them because I know how much the pollinators love them. And every time I go out there and I water the lemon basil, it smells so good. It smells so good. And the bees are just all over it. All over it. There was more drama about the tomato than the Kardashians. Oh, so that's the one. Okay. Yeah, I remember. I know what you're talking about now. There was some drama about the purple tomato. Yeah. No, I know what you mean. I love tomatoes. Eat them like apples. Haha. Nice. My basil is done really well. I've got cilantro started and it's going great. Nice. Yeah, cilantro apparently, uh, apparently is supposed to be grown over like the winter, I think, or the fall. It's so crazy. Me too with rosemary. I managed to keep rosemary and dappled some this year. Also, finally did lose a basil plant. Yeah, I have not lost one basil plant. They're like growing like shrubs out of my raised bed, and I put them on the end of my raised bed, pointing out towards the yard, and I'm kind of regretting putting them there because they're dropping seeds, and so I'll probably have basil growing out of those beds forever, which is kind of okay. I mean, as long as you dig them out, you can just pull them up like weeds, and you can even put them in another pot and grow and hand them to a friend or whatever. The Duke, we are a big town dog family. Yeah, I'm not a come here, boy. He's a big dog. He's a big old teddy bear. We were he was in when I woke up and he was. I love waking up sometimes and his head is just looking right at me in the bed. But he's a big old teddy bear. He's a big old teddy bear. The fastest growing tomato here was the Texas Tiny, and they're really tiny. Yeah, it's probably, I don't know if the Texas Tiny is like a spoon tomato. Phil has had spoon tomatoes growing out of his compost pile for like a year now. He said he can just go there and grab a whole handful of spoon tomatoes. Yeah, no, I have not dealt with the Texas Tiny or the spoon tomato. I have done the Sweet 100s, and those, oh my God, if they drop one tomato in your bed, you'll have them forever. You'll have them forever. Oh yeah, pesto. Phil's coming down in October. So Phil's Figs is coming down for Figtoberfest that week, that first week in October, and he'll be here and he wants to do some Italian dishes. So he does a lot of pesto. So I will have plenty of basil, and maybe we'll do some recipes like that. Let's see. I'm outside with my son's two GSDs, Achilles and Chief. Yeah, no, we got a big old German Shepherd. He's a good boy. I still yet to harvest a black mission fig. Yeah, you live in a neighborhood like I do, so I bet the squirrels and the birds are getting to them before you are. I I've got a ton of figs, and black mission is becoming one of my favorites. It's a pretty common one actually, but I never had one grow in the backyard before. It's in a container, it's doing well, but if you got squirrels, like that's what Phil has had issues with. Phil's had a ton of squirrels. Uh, Going into his garden and eating his figs. He used that bird netting, which apparently is working really well for him. The bird netting is even deterring the squirrels. So maybe try that bird netting out, because anybody who says they're not getting figs or they're not seeing their figs ripen, a lot of times what happens is they're ripening and they're getting eaten before they can find them. Also, if it's really hot and dry, you want to be watering your fig tree daily. If it's really hot, you're going to be wanting to water your fig daily, because it'll sometimes just drop them, or it won't produce them at all if it's too hot. There's an idea for channel recipes, what to do with veggies to grow. Yeah, I would like to do more stuff like that. I got a complaint this past week. I got a complaint this past week about, I don't know what the person said, but I don't typically read comments on the YouTube videos. I usually just browse through them and ignore them if they're ugly, And I saw one, and it just aggravated me to no end, because I'm not, there was some there was a controversial video that came out this week involving Epic Gardening, and it was talking about how Epic Gardening has an investment group that funds them, and who cares? More power to them. Kevin at Epic Gardening makes really good content. He's been making good content for years. And he actually posted a video explaining what the guy was talking about in the chat. But when you have a channel like Epic Gardening, where it's your full-time job, or Coghill, you can focus on what people are asking for, like specifically, and kind of focus a lot of your content directed toward, certain questions or what people are asking for. I don't do this full time. This is my full-time job. I've got two full-time jobs, basically. I got my work full-time job and then this. And so when y'all are seeing my videos, right, especially right now, it's stuff that I've got to be doing, and I'm videoing, and I'm just bringing y'all along with me. It's hard to directly respond to like a question and direct a whole video around it. I just don't have the time. Maybe eventually one day when I can do this full-time content stuff, I can, focus on, answering questions with a full-length video, but some people just are never happy. So I stay, Joe Rogan says it, stay out of the comments, stay out of the comments. And I do for the most part. I don't even see them developing, but I water a lot and maybe watering too much. I don't know. With figs, it's not going to. Send me some pictures, Felicia. If it's in a container too, it could be needing a new container. If you got a hater, you're doing something right. That's what I always say. If someone's hating on what you're doing something right. You're getting noticed by somebody. So how's it going, Matt? Yeah, Kevin did an excellent video responding to that. Yeah, no, Kevin's a good dude. Kevin from Epic Gardening is he's a good dude. Him and Jock, I've spoke with them before. But there's so many trolls out there, and that video went viral. I had probably 3 or 4 different people send me the video before Kevin responded to it. And it's just, people are always going to hate. And I made a comment on Instagram and I said, there's always going to be haters, dude. The fact that Kevin, reaches this many people and can make a living doing what he's doing is inspiration and goals to like other gardening content creators. I want to say, like, Kevin is Epic Gardening really sets the standard for all other gardening content creators. They are probably the biggest gardening channel in the world. So Epic Gardening is the inspiration and the motivation to, for other garden content creators. I don't think nobody wants, I would never want to do videos exactly like them, but like, you kind of see inspiration from them and, motivation, and look at like, oh, if Kevin can do it, maybe I can do it too, so yeah, he even bought some of the guy's seeds. I can't wait for that video. What's wrong with these trolls? They're so negative. It's like anything in life, on the internet, especially because you have such an anonymity, you don't have to show your face. You don't have to look at that person and say it to their face. So, there's power in that, so the best thing you can do is not let people get to you. Yeah. Sometimes it's hard, but it's easier on the internet because, they're not even saying it to my face. So I don't really even care. Love Epic, but also smaller content creators as well. Yes. It's important to, and I don't typically watch a whole lot of other gardening content creators stuff. I do watch other homesteading channels for sure, but I don't watch a ton of other gardening content creators just because I used to. And I would notice if I was watching too much of someone's channel, I'll start picking up some of their mannerisms, or I'll get an idea and I think it's my own, and I'll get halfway through and I was like, oh, he just did this. Why am I? So I do my best not to watch too many of everybody else's videos. I want to support other channels, but I try not to like sit there all day and binge for other people's stuff. There is room for everyone. The green industry. I was just at TNLA, the expo 2 weeks ago, and the green industry is so crazy, and the content is so crazy. I mean, there's so many people putting out content now, and there is room for everybody. There's how many billion people in the world, and when I look at my analytics, I've got people from the USA, I've got people from Germany, I got people from Puerto Rico, I got people from Australia. It's, even though I'm a Texas garden guy, I'm not, people, it's not just people from Texas that are watching my stuff, so it's really cool to see their reach. And if you're getting views and getting the engagement like that, then you're doing something right. So it's good motivation to keep going, putting out content, and keep doing stuff like this. I love these live streams. I love these live streams because it's so easy to engage with y'all and have discussions and talk about stuff. If I shoot a video, it's going to take me a couple hours to shoot, a couple hours to edit, and like an hour to post. But I can come here for an hour and just talk with y'all for a little bit and have just as much engagement. And it's a lot less effort, and it's kind of fun. It's fun to not just be sitting here in front of my computer by myself, which is kind of what I'm doing, but not really. Jason never called. Yes. So me and Jason text a lot, and he was telling me about his journey and everything, and how it works. And he talks about at a certain point it was costing him money to go into work, and so he had to retire from his regular job and go out and do full-time content. And it's worked out so well for him. And he does such great content. Jason Coghill is, I was talking about Kevin being the benchmark. Jason's the same way. Jason from Coghill and Jason over at Solar Land were two of the guys that I started watching first in the beginning. Them and Wrangler Star. I was watching these homesteading videos. I was working at the same company I'm working at right now. And I was working a schedule that was 7 on, 7 off. So I was off for 26 weeks out of the year. 26 weeks out of the year. The 26 weeks that I was on, I was there, almost all the time. But there were other 26 I was off and had nothing to do. I got no kids. I was already doing the gardening stuff. So I really got into some of these homesteading channels and these gardening channels. And I was like, wow, maybe I should, start doing some content, doing some videos. And that's where it all kicked off. And it was because I started watching channels like Coghill, Sutherland, Justin Rhodes, Wrangler Star that got, motivation to get my journey started. So hopefully people see my stuff and it, inspires them or motivates them to do what they're doing. And, it's really cool, because like someone said earlier, there's enough people for everybody, especially, in the gardening, there's always, especially in the gardening top genre, because people want to especially know in their area what's growing on. So it's really important to do stuff like that. We will have to check them out. We are a small channel, and yes, we're going to have someone you can't. You're always going to have someone you can't please. You just have to be true to yourself. We have a great community. Absolutely, yes, for sure. Hey, Felicia. Yeah, holler at me later, Felicia. This is a great live. Enjoying the chat and the information. It's always good to be able to share and learn from each other. 100%. I appreciate the positive feedback. Yeah, I always have fun doing these lives. I am going to start having, so like next week, we'll do the Texas Garden Guys show. So we'll have the Texas Garden Guys show on Monday evenings at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. The garden party will be Wednesdays, unless it's like a special guest that's got to do a different day. Like last night, we had to do it on Thursday because the Millennial Gardener had to do Thursday. But we'll do the garden party on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And then Friday, since I have every other Friday off, we'll either do TGIF in the evening at 7 o'clock or in the morning at 7 o'clock. Depending on, like where I'm off. I really like to do these morning lives though. The morning lives are more fun to me than the evening lives. But on the Texas Garden Guys show on Mondays, I'm going to start having a guest on that show every week. So like next week, I've already posted this, Uncle Josh Gardens or the plant techie Josh is going to be on with me on Monday, Labor Day. And that'll be more of a one-on-one, with me and another person, getting to know more about them and what they got going on. The garden party is more of a group. It's me and Phil, Phil's Figs. Make sure you follow Phil's Figs. And so yeah. So TGIF will probably always be me unless I mix that up. But Monday we're going to start having a guest, just one guest, one person on the Texas Garden Guy show, and then the garden party on Wednesday will be multiple guests. So let's see. Blue Sage, since this is the first time I'm trying to start a garden, I have no idea what I'm doing. I am watching many sites. While I like some more than others, never ever would I knock someone. For sure. Yeah, no, and it's really cool because you can we were talking about hugelkultur last night where, there's a lot of videos, and I've done it, where people will take, logs or sticks or mulch and stuff and put it in their raised bed. We were talking about that topic last night, and, everybody had a different opinion. It doesn't mean anybody's wrong. It's just like nothing is, no technique or method is 100% bulletproof for every location, because some things just aren't going to work. Some things that work in my yard are not going to work in your yard. Some things that work in your yard are not going to work in my yard. But you can take methods and practices that I'm using and adapt them to make them work for you. And that's kind of the best advice I can give someone. I don't watch scissors channels, so I keep mine more original. Yep, no, for sure. Yeah, I don't want to, yeah, I try not to, I don't want to watch other people's content too much because it will definitely influence I've seen it. I've seen my content change and you do it almost subliminally, without even knowing it. They're like, oh crap, I was doing my intro just like this person, or it's weird. It's that old adage, like if you stand next to someone and they got their arms crossed, you might start crossing your arms, like it's weird. You'll notice that sometimes. And if you get like too in deep to someone's content, it'll really start to influence yours, I believe. Yeah, Celebrating Farm Life. Make sure y'all follow, if y'all are on the YouTube or the Facebook side, make sure to follow Celebrating Farm Life. They're just starting out. We're always learning. If you make mistakes, that's okay. That's how you learn. Yes, and I recommend that if you do make mistakes, show your mistakes. Anytime I screw something up, I try to show it. I mean, I get comments and questions about people, killing their plants. Hey, everybody does it. I do it too. It's not a big deal. If you don't kill a plant every once in a while, you're not trying hard enough. Not everything is going to work out. Trees are going to die. Leaves are going to fall off. Nothing lives forever. Nothing stays gold forever, Pony Boy. I think that's how the quote goes. Yeah, Matt, get you a live stream going, dude. If I make a bad mistake, I figure it's mulch. No, it's not always mulch. You're good. No, you gotta see what works for your garden. You gotta see what works for your area. And, it's all about learning. We're all learning. I'm learning new stuff every single day when it comes to gardening through my interactions with other people. It's all a learning curve. The best advice I can give you is, get involved with like a older person from a different generation who gardens, because they have the most knowledge out of anybody. Especially when I go to these master gardener meetings. I'm not a master gardener at all. I don't have the time to go to those classes, but I've gone to master gardener talks and done some garden talks with them, and met a bunch of them. And in my family and other people's family, when I go to these nurseries and meet these older people, I try to absorb as much knowledge as I can, because they are so willing to share their knowledge and share their experiences with you if you are willing to listen and learn. If you're willing to sit there and listen and nod your head and absorb as much as you can, they will talk and give you some advice and give you some good pointers for how you're gardening, because they were the ones doing it for us. So it's best to learn as much as you can from them. But so guys, I've been on for about an hour and 20 minutes now. I'm going to go ahead and hop off. I got to get some laundry done. I got a lunch meeting this afternoon. But if you aren't already, make sure to follow me on Facebook. I'm Texas Garden Guy everywhere. Texas Garden Guy everywhere. Like I said, I took the ads off the live. So if y'all don't mind, go buy a Texas Garden Guy hat. I put the link in the chat. The link is also in my bio on Instagram and TikTok. Support small businesses. This is Dirty Punk Gardening's company that's making the hats. They're doing the shipping and everything. I'm not making that much money. I just want to make some merch and have, a quality product go out and get the word out there. So make sure to go check out the hats and everything. We're going to have some new varieties coming soon. But hope you'll have a great weekend, and we will be live on Monday. So make sure to click that bell so you get a notification anytime I go live or anytime I post anything. So I will holler at y'all later.